Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of Sri Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be hearing from Sri Prabhupada, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada, and we will be listening to one of his old lectures, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Verse 26. And please do increase your volume because the recording sometimes is not very clear or loud enough. So without further delay, we will start the lecture. And please try to take at least one takeaway so that we can share and discuss at the end of the class. Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Mumukshavo
Mumukshavo
Khora
Rupa
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 Kitava
Kitava
Bhuta
Bhuta
Machine
Ata
Ata
Narayana Kala
Shanta
Shanta
Bhajanti
Ki
Anasuyavaha
Anasuyama
Mumukshavo Khora Rupa
Mumukshavo Gora Rupa
Kitava Bhuta Patinata
Hitava Bhuta Patinata
Narayana Kala Shanta
Narayana Kala Shanta
Bhajanti Anasuyavaha
Ti Janasuyava
Mumukshavo Khora Rupa
Mumukshava Gora Rupa
Hitava Bhuta Patinata
Hitva Bhuta Patinatha
Narayana Kala Shanta
Narayana Kala Shanta
Bhajanti Anasuyavaha
Ti Janasuyava
Mumukshavo Khora Rupan
Mukshava Gora Rupan
Hitava Bhuta Patinata
Hitva Bhuta Patinatha
Narayana Kala Shanta
Narayana Kala Shanta
Bhajanti Anasuyavaha
Vajanti Janasuyava
Mumukshavo Khora Rupa
Mumukshava
Persons desiring liberation.
Persons desiring liberation.
Khora
Gora
Horrible, ghastly.
Horrible, ghastly
Rupan
Rupan
Forms like that.
Forms like that
Hitava
Hitva
Rejecting.
Rejecting
Bhuta Patin
Bhuta Patin
Demigods.
Demigod
Atta
Ata
For this reason.
For this reason
Narayana
Narayana
The personality of Godhead.
The personality of Godhead
Kalak
Kala
Plenary portions.
Very important
Shanta
Shanta
All blissful.
All blissful
Bhajanti
Bhajanti
Your worship.
You worship
He certainly.
Certainly
Anasuyava
Anasuyava
Non-envious.
Non-envious
Translation. Those who are serious about liberation are certainly non-envious, and they respect all. Yet they reject the horrible and ghastly forms of the demigods and worship only the all-blissful forms and plenary portions of Lord Vishnu.
Mumukshava Gora Rupan Hitva Bhupatinatha Narayana Kala Shanta Bhajanti Janasuyava. So, the first word, Mumukshava, it is very difficult. This class have made to find out Mumukshava. It is very difficult to find out. They do not know what is meant by mumukshava. Mumukshava means desiring to be liberated. They do not know what is liberation. The so-called scientists, philosophers of the modern age, they do not know what is meant by liberation, mumuksha. and still they are the heads of education and public leaders. Andha jatha andhairupaniya. They do not know what is the objective of life, what for the human life is meant. They do not know. I was just talking with Gurudas. Sometimes in the year 1950 or 51, I went to Jhansi, and it happened so that the friend in whose house I was staying, he was a leader, and there was a meeting for Gandhi's disappearance day. So I was asked to speak. At that time I was not sannyasi. I was asked to speak something on non-violence. So I explained that violence means if you have got some right and if somebody by force stops you to utilize your right, that is violence. That is violence. I have got some right to take something, so or enter in some room, and if somebody checks me by force that you cannot enter, that is violence and it is criminal. So, our land of Bharatvarsha, it is not ordinary thing to take birth in Bharatvarsha. Just see practically how many men, they are automatically circumambulating these temples, even with that common man. So in this way, if you study, by nature they are God conscious in Bharatvarsha. By nature. Even a very poor man is satisfied in God consciousness. He doesn't care poverty is taken. He is satisfied, Krishna has placed me in this position. Neither he cares to know. We have studied why I am poverty stricken. He doesn't care. I am getting some food by grace of Krishna. Not very long ago, say about 200, 300 years ago, in Krishnanagar, there is a big Jamindar, Raja Krishna Chandra. So he went to a learned scholar, Pandit, Brahman. Though Brahmana, they voluntarily accept poverty. They don't care. So Raja Krishna Chandra came to him and asked him, Panditji, can I help you in some way? He replied, I don't require any help from you. No, I see that you are very poverty-stricken. No, I am not poverty-stricken. My students get some rice for me, and my wife cooks it, and I get some, there was a tamarind tree, so I get some tamarind leaves. So it is very nice, I don't require any help. You see. This is India's Chanakya Pandit. He was the greatest scholar, politician. He was Prime Minister of Maharaj, Emperor Chandragupta, under whose name the Chanakya Puri is going on. He was living in a cottage, not accepting any salary. And as soon as Maharaj Chandragupta wanted some explanation, immediately resigned. This is the standard of persons who are born in India. Vyasdev, who can be greater scholar than Vyasdev? He has written his last contribution is Srimad Bhagavatam, and each word, if you study for hundreds of years, still you have to understand each word. Such a scholar, he was living in a cottage. So, this is actually India's culture. So I explained in that meeting that after many births, one is given the opportunity to take birth in this holy land of Bharatvarsh. Unfortunately, you people, you are by force making them materialist. They had the opportunity to take advantage of the contribution of great sages, rishis, to study and to become a successful human being. But you are by force dragging them from that attitude to this materialistic way of life. This is violence. This is violence. What you are speaking of nonsense, non-violence. This is violence. So, about 20 years ago, I was thinking like that. So, actually, people are being killed, not only in India, but outside also, by these blind leaders. They do not know how to lead people, how to make them happy, how to make them successful in their human form of life. Narottam Das Thakur sang, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Gumai. Manusya Janama Paiya Radha Krishna na bhajiya Janiya Suniya Bisha Khain. My dear Lord Krishna, I have simply wasted my time. Simply. Without Krishna consciousness, actually, simply we are wasting time. Simply. Such opportunity, human form of life, our attention is diverted simply for eating, sleeping, mating and defending, and our real business is spoiled. That is summarized by Narottam Das Thakur, that Hari Hari Bifale Janamavai. I have simply spoiled my life. Manusya Janama, this human form of life was especially meant for understanding Krishna, Radha Krishna. If not Radha Krishna, at least Krishna of Battle of Kurukshetra. Sometimes the politicians say, our friend Mr. Chatterjee, N.C. Chatterjee, he was a nice friend of me, that Swamiji, I want Krishna of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, not of Vrindavan. And that's all right. At least you take battlefield of Krishna, Krishna of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that's all right. But take to Krishna, if you are not so much fortunate to understand what is Radha Krishna, at least you try to understand what is Arjuna Krishna. So, actually the whole world is being spoiled. I am especially drawing the attention of those who are thoughtful men People are being killed without this Krishna consciousness. People are being killed. They got this opportunity, human form, they should have been educated to understand Krishna, and by understanding Krishna they become liberated. As it is here, mumukshava. Mumukshava, those who are desiring for liberation. But they do not know what is liberation. What is transmigration of the soul? What is soul? Nothing. Simply rascals. And they are leading the whole people. They do not know what is liberation. The Darwin's theory, bodily concept, all right. But that anthropology that is going on in the university, a false theory without any idea. So here it is said, mumukshava, desiring for liberation. But the people do not know what is liberation. They are thinking liberation in terms of politics. Just like we have become liberated from the British rule. What sort of liberated? Liberation. During British rule, people are free to move, free to spend their money. Now you are so liberated that you cannot move, you cannot spend your money. This is liberation. Formerly, there was no restriction for going outside. And for a sannyasi like me, I had so much difficulty to obtain the permission of the government to go out. So much difficulty. I remember all this, how, with what great difficulty I got out of this country. And because I somehow or other, by Krishna's grace, had got out of this country, I could spread this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Otherwise it was not possible. I wanted to start this movement from India, but I was not at all encouraged. I was not at all encouraged. I approached so many friends that you have got 4 sons, kindly give me one of your sons. I want to make him Brahmin. Oh, Swamiji, what we will do becoming Brahmin? We have to earn our livelihood. You see? So people have forgotten what is the aim of life, what is the purpose of life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Bharat bhumite manusya janma haila jaha, janma sarthak kari karo paropakar. Everyone who has taken birth on the land of Bharatvarsha, he must make his life successful, because here we have the opportunity in what is mumukshava, what is liberation. Actually, we have got this information in Bharatvarsha, no other country. Their liberation means so-called political liberation and making humbug, all these things, fighting with one another. That is not liberation. Liberation means to get out of the cycle of repetition of birth and death. That is called liberation. But they have no idea whose liberation, what is liberation, after liberation where to go. All these knowledge practically blocked. So it is very difficult to understand the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam like this verse, Mumukshava ghora rupan hitya bhupate natha. They do not understand. People are so misguided, ill-educated, that they do not understand it. Otherwise, the land of Bharatvarsha is meant for liberation. In other lands, they take birth They have no information of liberation. Here in this land, Bharatvarsha, there is the idea of liberation, mukti, mukti. So we should be interested in that liberation. Mumukshava, mumukha ichhava. Those who are desiring, those who want to remain within this bondage, material bondage of transmigrating from one body. Abrahma bhuvana lokan punaravartinarjuna. Abrahma bhuvana lokan. We are trying to improve our material condition. Sometimes we are going up, sometimes we are coming down. This is going on. But actual life, this human form of life is meant for to get out of this darkness of material world. Tamasi ma jyotirgama. This is the information, Vedic information. Don't remain in this darkness. Darkness, this material world is dark. Just like night, it was dark. Actually, it was dark. And because the sunshine is there, now we are seeing each other. Actually, it is dark. And dark also ignorance. We do not know what is the aim of life. Therefore, the whole world is darkness. And the Vedic information is do not remain in the darkness. Come to the light. But that education is wanted. That is called mukti. To get out of the darkness of ignorance and darkness of this material world. So, mumukshava, if one is serious to go out of this darkness to the light, then his duty is to, as it is mentioned, Narayana kala shanta bhajanti hi anasuyava. Anasuyava. Aswa. Aswa means envious. Just like when we present Krishna, especially in India, this botheration is not there in other countries outside India because they had no information. I placed before them that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. You are searching after God, here is God. Here is God's name. Here is God's address. Here is God's activities. You try to understand God. Why you are speculating? So they have accepted it. They are not asuyava. They are not envious. Here, if I present Krishna, one will say, why not Kali? Guru Rupan. Kali is very active. It has got so long tongue and it has got a sword in her hand, cutting the heads. It is very nice, and we shall be able to eat goats. You see, actually, the Kali Puja means for the meat eaters. The Kali Puja now, this season is Kali Puja. This Kali Puja means because the Vedic Shastras are so made that from the lowest rascal to the highest intelligent man should be elevated. That is the purpose. From the lowest rascal to the highest intelligent Brahmin. Because all classes of men are there. Some of them are influenced by the modes of goodness, some of them are influenced by the modes of passion, some of them are influenced by the modes of ignorance, but the Vedas are meant for study, for the human being. Anadi bohinmukh jeev Krishna bhuli gela, ataev Krishna Ved Purana karila. The Vedas are meant for human being. So, there are different types of human beings. Therefore, there are different types of shastras to attract all classes of men. So, the meat eaters, for them, the Vedas says, yes, loke bhavayam amisha madhya seva nityasta jantu every living entity has a general trend because he has come here to enjoy, to satisfy the material senses. And material senses means eating meat, drinking wine, and have sex life. This is material, satisfying the material senses. So they are regulated. All right, you want meat, you want to eat meat. All right, then sacrifice one goat before goddess Kali and worship her on the Amavasya, on the dark moon night. So many regulations. The real purpose is to restrict him. But if it is directly said that don't eat meat, he will be revolting. Therefore, there are so many prescription of worshipping different demigods. Otherwise, there is no necessity. There is no necessity. That is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Kamastasta hitogyana jajanti anna devata. Those who are worshipping other demigods, they have become blind. They have lost their senses. Hitogyana. Hitogyana. Real knowledge is lost. Real knowledge is lost. Therefore, they are after so many demigods. Krishna says, it is not my manufactured word. Kamaistasta hitogyana jajanti anna devata. There is no need of worshipping any demigods. This is the Govardhan Puja. This Govardhan Puja, Nanda Maharaj was arranging for worshipping Indra, and Krishna stopped it. And he engaged him for worshipping Govardhan, which is representation of Krishna. That is the Govardhan Puja. So here it is said, Mumuksava ghoro rupan hitya bhupatinatha. Bhutapatinatha. So those who are actually desiring liberation from this entanglement of material life, transmigrating from one body to another, we can get different types of sense pleasure in different bodies. That's all right. But this is not a very good business. Sometimes I become a demigod and sometimes I become an eucalyptus tree standing for 300 years. So why should we waste our time in that way? There is intelligence. But they do not know that this time I am very nice American. I have got my skyscraper building and motor car and very good bank balance. I am very happy. They don't care. But he does not know that next life he may become a cat or dog. That he does not know. There is risk. This science is not taught in any university. That's so fools and rascals. There is a great science, transmigration of the soul, immortality of the soul, how to elevate the soul to the highest perfection. These things they do not know. The rascals, they do not know. Neither do they teach. Mumuksava ghora rupa. It's so unfortunate time it is. Therefore, there is great necessity of spreading this Krishna consciousness movement to actually educate the human being to the highest perfection of life. That is required. It is not a religious system competing with some other religion, just like they are thinking that we are making Christians Hindus, which is nonsense. We are not concerned with the Hindus, Muslims or Christians. We are not. These boys, they are educated boys. They have no business to become Hindu from Christian. They have no business. There are many people before me, many Swamis went there to make Christians Hindus. They kicked there on their face. They did not become successful because they talk nonsense. Why one should Christian become Hindu, Hindu become Christian? They should know what is God, what He is, what is His relationship with God. This Krishna consciousness movement is that. It is not a movement for making Hindus to Muslim or Muslim to Hindus or Christian to Muslim. This is not that a movement. They clearly understand this. Therefore, they are following. They are accepting. If I would have preached that Hindu religion is better than Christian religion, they would have kicked me out long ago. It is a science, it is a philosophy. So, there is great necessity of educating people what is the aim of life. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Therefore he said that Bharat Bhumite Manusya Jarma Haila Jar. He was appealing to the human being. Those were actually human beings, not to the cats and dogs. He was appealing to the human being. That you study the contribution of the great sages and make your life successful and go outside, preach this mission. That is going on under the name of Krishna consciousness movement. It is not a sentimental movement, it is a scientific movement, mumukshava, guru. We are therefore restricting and not to worship any other. Therefore, when I started this mission, many friends advised me, why don't you make it God consciousness? This is bogus, God consciousness. Krishna consciousness. Otherwise they will put so many gods. Here is another God, here is another God, here is another God, here is another God, here is another incarnation, here is another avatar. All nonsense. Place, actual is God. Krishnastu Bhagavan Sayam. Narayana Kala Shanta. So, try to understand our mission. Here it is said, we have to accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna also said, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mame Kangsar, unto me only. Then you will be saved. Otherwise you will go to hell. So, this Mumuksava Guru Rupa, we don't advise that you either you worship Kali or either Shiva, either it is all the same. Jatamat Tatava. We don't speak all this nonsense. We simply say, come to Krishna, then you will be saved. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
This is one of Srila Prabhupada's fiery lectures that I really had goosebumps listening to. Amazing. Would like to ask devotees if you have any questions, any comments. That's a chat from Vrinda. She says, as always, amazing class from the founder, Chari himself. This seemed like a heavy lecture in a good way. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Mother Geeta. Please, Mother.
To everyone, please accept my humble obeisance.
Accept mine.
I was, of course, there are so many points, but one thing, probably I've read it before, but it again seemed like it's a new part, new information or new knowledge. Srila Prabhupada says that even one word of Srimad Bhagavatam, if one, tries to understand for hundreds of years, may still not understand just one word. And the other point he made was, being a human, if we do not take up Krishna consciousness, then we are knowingly taking poison. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mother. Yes, that was your second point was also what really hit me, that not using this in Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. I think I've spoiled my life That was the phrase that he used from the Bengali bhajan. I've spoiled my life, and I was like, whoa! Just the fact that your prophet, translator that used the word spoiled was pretty powerful. Yeah, that was a pretty powerful takeaway. Thank you, Mother Geeta. Any other takeaways from devotees? Any Yes, go ahead, Parikshit.
Some businesses, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Towards the end of the lecture, Srila Prabhupada was, again, heavy in talking about Hinduism, Muslim, Christian, and of course, the whole idea of converting Hindu to Christian or Christian to Hindu, he condemned it immediately. So my question is not really even about spiritualists or religionists who are Hindus, Muslims or Christians, but Hinduism, we are still, as a Hare Krishna movement, sometimes lumped under Hinduism, and that disturbs me quite a bit because we are Vaishnavas, we know that in our religion is Sanatana Dharma, eternal religion. Now, how do we get around this whole issue when people start looking at us as Hindus? When Srila Prabhupada has condemned Hinduism the way he has. And just putting it out for general discussion by Mother Gita, with Dear Krishna Prabhu, whoever wants to weigh in on this, I'd be very happy to hear. Hare Krishna.
Very nice question. Mother Gita, would you like to shed some light on that, Mother?
Yes, many times we come across while preaching, where people are very attached to Hinduism, that I am a Hindu. But I remember hearing that Hindu word actually doesn't exist. It was after the Britishers invaded India, they, those who were living on one side of river Sindhu, they couldn't pronounce Sindhu, so they called them Hindu, and that's how this word came about. The problem is that people don't have enough knowledge. They have not, many of them, are not aware of Krishna consciousness. So they just go by here and say, maybe someone in the family or friend circle or whoever may have, talk to them about Hinduism or whatever. So they just have that little knowledge. And we are very fortunate that through Srila Prabhupada, we understand, this Hindu, Muslim, Christian, these are all bodily designations. So the only way to remove this piece of ignorance is through knowledge from Srila Prabhupada's books. Thank you.
And actually, I was even remembering, Mother Gita, as you were speaking, I remembered a lecture, a class by Balabhadra Prabhu, where I think it was like 2-3 months ago, and where he mentioned and he said that as devotees, we should actually regard ourselves as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, as opposed to Hindu. And I do know that under the ISKCON gbc.org website, when they explain themselves, who ISKCON, who we are, what we are, it's basically described as, we belong to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, a monotheistic tradition within the Vedic culture based on Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. That's exactly how they describe themselves, ourselves, ISKCON devotees. And they really stick to the term Vaishnava because, like you said, Mother Gita, that word Hindu, that doesn't exist at all. It's just man-made. And then somehow when we use the word Hindu, then people think, oh, yeah, it's one of us, when actually it's not. It's actually Vaishnavism. But that's what I remembered from one of Anuttama Prabhu's classes and also from Balabhadra Prabhu's class. Don't know if anyone else would like to shed some light on that from Parikshit's question. Or if he himself, if Prashant Prabhu has something else to add to it that he has heard.
No,
That's fine.
it's explained nicely, especially the way you quoted the way we are described, which is accurate, very accurate. You have to be I'm just literally searching my own mind and being careful, because sometimes people know that we know about, the demigod and demigod worship, but of course we don't worship demigods. Papa was screaming loudly about that today, that it's not necessary to worship demigods, and quoted the pastime of Nanda Maharaj and those in Vrindavan worship Lord Indra for a while to Krishna. Stop demigod worship the way it is defined today. And of course, we don't do that. So bottom line, we're not Hindus. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, and and this lecture was really powerful by Srila Prabhupada. I mean, many times, I guess towards the half of the lecture, he was getting pretty upset. I could tell by the tone of his voice, and Srila Prabhupada made it so clear that those that worship demigods don't have lost the real knowledge. When that really hit me home when he said that, it's at least for me, it's different if someone says, oh, you're worshiping demigods, you're in Maya. No, yeah, okay, I'm in Maya, get that. But Srila Prabhupada is saying that one who worships demigods, we have lost the real knowledge. Somehow the way he said we have lost the real knowledge is like, you are a lost case. Down to the bottomless pit and working our way up again. So Srila Prabhupada made it so clear how important it is, especially for those of us who are trying our best to practice Krishna consciousness, as in the line of a parampara, to really understand that the Supreme Lord is Krishna. I mean, Krishna himself, like Srila Prabhupada was mentioning of the Govardhan Puja festival, how he stopped his father from worshiping Lord Indra. And he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead is telling his father, don't worship Lord Indra, then that should be enough reason for us to, I don't want to use the word convince, but lack of a better word, to make us believe that worshiping the Lord is enough. We don't need to, worship anyone else, any other demigods, like Srila Prabhupada said. And also, I liked one takeaway that I've heard this before, but I like how Srila Prabhupada said it in a lecture when he was advised, when he was incorporating ISKCON in 1966, one devotee, and I believe it was either Hayagriva Prabhu or Kirtananda Swami, that told Srila Prabhupada, oh, why don't you call it God consciousness? He says, no, Krishna consciousness. But here he explains why. Because if we say God, they'll bring many gods. And I like how he said that. It was so amazing. It was so amazing. And that was another takeaway, how Srila Prabhupada really was emphasizing the one and only Supreme Lord, which was Krishna, and not God, because the little that to my limited understanding is, if we use the word God as such a broad term, that anyone can bring any God and say, this is God. And Srila Prabhupada is saying, no, Krishna is a Supreme Personality of God. And he was very specific and very principled and clear. So that was one takeaway that really clarified more of this topic of God consciousness and Krishna consciousness. Any other takeaway from devotees? Would like to hear takeaways from the devotees. Any about your Prabhupada? Yes, Varsha, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam Jai Srila Prabhupada. My takeaways, whenever I listen Srila Prabhupada lecture, whenever he uses like rascal and foolish people, we don't get angry. Like generally, if other people tell us rascal, we feel, oh, what is that? But when Srila Prabhupada says like rascal, foolish, that time it gives the warning, like, please take the Krishna conscious seriously, like don't take it like lightly. And that is my takeaway always, like whenever he uses rascal and foolish, and how rascal we are and foolish, like always, like whenever we hear the lecture, we think, oh, Krishna conscious is very serious. After lecture, after few hours, we get into material things and we tend to forget. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
That was such a nice takeaway, Varsha. I agree, because Shri Prabhupada always used the word rascal, and somehow, and you're so right, when Shri Prabhupada uses the word rascal, even though it's so heavy and it's so intense, but we can see and feel the love and compassion through Shri Prabhupada's tone of voice. If it was someone else, we're like, oh my God, I'm so offended. But yes, you're so right, Varsha, you're so right. It's so nice to hear Shri Prabhupada calling us rascals. I think it wakes us up and snaps us out of our nonsense. Thank you. That was a really nice takeaway. Thank you. Any other takeaways from devotees? Any thoughts? Yes, Bhakta Xavier.
Hare Krishna, please set my humble obeisance.
Except mine. Jai.
When he talked about appreciating the relationship between Arjuna and Krishna versus Radha Krishna, I really it really hit me, because I first, was attracted to Arjuna and Krishna's relationship, and it's a growing process with understanding Radha Krishna and understanding their relationship, and in turn our relationship. So it just kind of hit me a little bit that he kind of accepted it, or not accepted it, but advised, pursuing whatever relationship you have affinity towards. Krishna.
Yeah, that was a nice takeaway. Yeah, because sometimes, and as you were speaking, what was coming to my mind from your takeaway, Xavier, was, sometimes, and as human nature, we want to rush and get to point A to point B, but we have to take step-by-step process. And Srila Prabhupada is reminding us, as and the bond between Arjuna and Krishna is all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. That is completely our, Krishna Arjuna pastimes, lessons of understanding that relationship, that we're not the body, what's our duty, we don't know nothing, completely from Bhagavad Gita. And then once we are able to, pass that level, then we go to the next level, so it's a process. But yes, you're right, that we have to start from ground zero, which is the Krishna Arjuna, understanding that relationship, and then slowly building it up to Radha Krishna, because it's very difficult to get to Radha Krishna. I mean, even I can speak for myself. I don't understand Radha Krishna. Because that's way up there for me, way up there. And there was even a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada says that even Krishna himself doesn't know himself. What to speak of us? What to speak of me? But yes, that was a nice takeaway, that we have to start from ground zero and understanding the relationship with Krishna and Arjuna, and slowly building it up gradually. Thank you. Any other takeaways from devotees? Any other thoughts?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, obeisances, humble obeisances, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, we get a lot from the relationship between Arjuna and Krishna, because even though in the Mahabharata, many times it's established that it's a friendship relationship between Krishna and Arjuna, but on the battle of Kurukshetra, before it got started, that all changed to a spiritual master and disciple relationship, which is what we have with our spiritual masters. Shiksha, the instruction. So the Radha Krishna relationship is extremely deep. It's a conjugal relationship, and it's designed by Krishna himself, because Radharani is internal potency. Arjuna is playing the role that makes us understand what a disciple is compared to spiritual master. And the way Bhagavad Gita was explained to him, and he was asking questions like that, That is a relationship of inquiry, relationship of a person who is junior wanting to grow. That's the role that Arjuna played, versus the real intimacy that Radha presents to Krishna. That's the difference. So it's for us as conditioned souls, Krishna, Arjuna, Bhagavad Gita, that type of relationship, spiritual master and disciple, is our definite starting point. And if the Lord himself, by his mercy, begins to make us get a glimpse of what it is like to have a conjugal relationship with Krishna, that comes way, way later. Reason why that even the description of it is put all the way in the 10th canto. And the first 9 cantos of Bhagavatam doesn't say anything about that type of relationship yet. So we just wanted to make that point. Hare Krishna.
Yes, very good point. Thank you. And I've heard that point mentioned many times in Srila Prabhupada's lectures, where we go step by step. We first go to the 8 cantos and then, 9 cantos before we get to Krishna pastime. That's how the process should be. Thank you so much for reminding us about that. Any other points from devotees, takeaways, any other learning lesson? I really liked how Srila Prabhupada explained violence. Like I heard that many, I've heard the term, I've heard it explained many times, but I liked how Srila Prabhupada explained violence. And then how he explained liberation. Sometimes, not sometimes, many times, we feel that we got it in this material world and we are liberated, we have freedom. When I think about the freedom of rights, when people fight for freedom and this and that, and even that is not real freedom, because we're still bounded. I was just thinking, like when Srila Prabhupada was speaking about liberation, people talk about freedom, they fight for freedom, they speak for freedom, but we don't have freedom because we don't have the freedom to leave our bodies when we want to. We don't have the freedom to decide whether I want to fall sick or not fall sick. We don't have the freedom to say, oh, sickness, stay away. We are still bound by the modes of material nature. So then I said, yeah, liberation is, we don't have liberation. We don't have freedom. We're just bounded by so much that restricts us. So the word freedom is like, at least to personally, as is like null and void. It's just there for material purposes. But that was one takeaway that really hit me, how Srila Prabhupada says that the real liberation is getting out of this circle of birth and death. And then thinking of Mother Gita's point when she shared that the purpose of human life is to be used for the Lord, Krishna's consciousness. If not, it's like Srila Prabhupada said, I've spoiled my life. So yeah, that was pretty amazing how we should take this human form of life so seriously. Was pretty powerful for me, very powerful. Any other points from devotees? Any other takeaways? Any other questions? Just a humble reminder to devote. Yes, please, Dear Krishna, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, wonderful lecture by Srila Prabhupada, as always. One thing that I was just thinking when listening to this lecture is, and he was quoting the bhajan from Srila Narottam Das Thakur, like you were just mentioning about the urgency of this Krishna consciousness, Hari Hari Pifle Janam Gunainu. So interestingly, I was talking to a devotee yesterday, and we were just talking about, how much life has gone. Our life has gone, and we came to the conclusion that we really are running behind. In spite of getting the Krishna consciousness, we came to the conclusion that we are running so behind to catch up. We are already behind. So it's so urgent. We cannot afford to waste this life. So such a beautiful reminder from Srila Prabhupada.
Amazing, Dear Krishna, amazing. Yes. Sometimes I even, think about that, that my God, time is running, time is short. I don't even know whether I will see, tomorrow, next week, next year, next whatever. And and then sometimes, I come across situations where devotees are saying, oh, but I have nothing to do. I said, oh my God, use it for Krishna consciousness. Is running. Time is just running like anything. As they say, time flies. So like you said, dear Krishna, yes, we have to have the emergency consciousness and the urgency for Krishna consciousness, like really take it like as if, like what's coming to my mind is my spiritual master, he would always say, whenever it's a birthday, rather than say, oh, I'm 30 years old, say, no, you're 30 years dead. Because 30 years have been wasted and gone. So yeah, we got to take it so urgently. Yes, Mother Geeta, please, Mother.
I would like to thank the Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for such a powerful realization. It's a source of motivation for me to keep reminding myself we are running behind. Thank you.
Yes, Mother, we are definitely running behind, and there's so much that we can do to make sure that I don't run behind and I don't fall behind and I don't become lazy, because time is running. So true. Thank you for the wonderful reminder there, Krishna, because yeah, absolutely. And we see it in our spiritual masters, at that age. I mean, Srila Prabhupada, as he was mentioning, when he talked about liberation, he says that he had such great difficulty to get out of India, to come to America, because he wasn't encouraged in India. But at that time, when he was struggling to get out of the country, and he had so many problems, he said, he was in his late 60s to almost 70 years. So when he was speaking that, just now in the lecture, I was imagining a 69, 70-year-old body fighting with the government to get out of the country, and took him forever. And finally he did, by Krishna's grace, as he said. So I said, my God, he had that much energy, and he used every moment of it, every minute of it in Krishna's service. But yes, Mother Geeta, you're right. That was a nice reminder that we're running behind, and we cannot afford to run behind. Thank you, dear Krishna. Very nice. Any other points from devotees? Any other thoughts? Any other reflections or realization? Okay, if there isn't, it was such a wonderful discussion, wonderful sharing, wonderful thoughts. I always like when we discuss and share our thoughts. We learn so much from it. A humble reminder, this evening we'll have our Bhagavad Gita circle at 6 o'clock by Balabhadra Prabhu. This evening at 6 o'clock, please do join us. We are in the chapter 5, entitled Karma Yoga, Actions in Krishna Consciousness. And dear Krishna just shared the link, wonderful memory shared by His Grace Shyam Sundar Das Prabhu and Guru Das Prabhu. Oh, very nice. Thank you for sharing that with us, dear Krishna. Very nice. And looking forward to seeing all of you this Saturday for our, actually not Saturday, just Saturday and Sunday for our weekend event. Our Kirtan this Saturday and our regular Sunday program this Sunday. Until we meet this evening, have a wonderful day. Vanshakapalibhyascha, Kripasindubevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And tomorrow morning is Chandramali Swami's class. Just a heads up that it starts at 7 o'clock, if in case we miss seeing you guys this evening. Tomorrow morning is Chandramali Swami's class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.